Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Best Darn Everything, the show where we still haven't figured out exactly how we're introing it, but it's definitely a show where we don't talk about The Simpsons every week unless we decide to talk about The Simpsons that week. This week, however, we're talking about another show that your co-host with the most and I are very, very passionate about. Something that's near and dear to our hearts all the way back from both when we were kids and when we were in college. And now it's back on the small screen. And we've already talked about it once, but we don't care because it's Cobra Kai Never Dies. And here to talk about that with me today, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
Man, and you know, I had that catchphrase in my mind through the last episode of the season, and it kind of helped me determine the order of operations on who was going to win what, because holy crap, there was a 2-episode tournament at the end of the season, and so much went down, and there's so much to talk about just from the season. Man, and we've been waiting to talk about this for like almost 2 weeks now, I think.
Yeah, your grandpa went and pulled a Miyagi and had to pass away.
Mish Pap. But yeah,
my bad.
Yeah, but yeah, we other things happened before that too, where we just had to keep prolonging it. So yeah, I guess we got some stuff to talk about. So I should go ahead and throw it back to that guy that doesn't like to shut up. The man, the myth. Oh, I already kind of said it. The guy that doesn't like to shut up. I guess he's Miyagi Fang. I don't know. It's Miles.
Miyagi Fang. I'm excited. That's a good combo name for sure. Yeah, so we already talked about Cobra Kai on this podcast, but we love this freaking show and we love the Karate Kid. And as soon as Cobra Kai season 4 ended, I was like, yeah, let's do that again. Because two episode finale tournament was cool. Return of some fan favorite characters or fan hated characters, depending on how you want to look at it. A whole lot of stuff going on. And like you said, real life has definitely been getting in the way. I'm super mad right now that I did not buy my last vehicle at a LaRusso dealership because I'm having to deal with maintenance issues at my local Toyota, Honda. I don't remember which dealership we bought it at. I have a Nissan, but it doesn't match the dealership we bought it at, which is probably the problem to begin with.
Please sponsor us. Okay, yeah, now quit bad mouthing him.
Whichever one of you, yeah. We'll say it was the other guy. That's how that works. I wish we
get a LaRusso sponsorship.
That would be cool. Plus, I just want a little tree with every purchase.
That would be Cobra cool. All right. Well, I mean, I really don't want to beat around the bush too much. You're talking about the tournament, and we got all that, and I know we're going to get into that because it's kind of probably towards the end. But I want to talk about Terry Silver.
For sure. And that's appropriate because that's literally how the season starts out. Is the last thing we see in season 3, or one of the last things we see in season 3, is John Kreese calling somebody on the phone, and all he says is something ominous like, "Hey, it's me. It's been a long time." And then we open season 4 with this beautiful piano music playing in this like beautiful mansion. But I would say like a word that I would use to describe the setting would be like serene and peaceful. Not the same sort of look that we knew from Terry Silver in the Karate Kid 3, but an older, mature, and maybe calmer Terry Silver playing that piano. Hair is down, no ponytail yet. Which I actually saw. That's funny you brought that up. I saw behind the scenes like filming of Cobra Kai season 4, and that was one of the scenes that was included for some reason, was just him going through the motions of putting it into the ponytail. And I'm like, this is a stupid thing to have in a behind the scenes segment. And by the end, I'm like, oh my God, that man's an acting genius. I wish I pulled my ponytail back in such a convincing manner. But anyway, Terry Silver, he's at peace. He's calm. He's playing a beautiful, like somber, very like pleasant piano melody. He gets this phone call. It's from an unlisted number. He answers it. And all we hear is that same line that Kreese said at the end. "Hey, it's me. It's been a long time." Click. He hangs up on it. And then immediately it goes into like a very like almost eerie or maybe like dreadful would be a word I would use to describe the melody change and the music that Terry's playing. But Terry is obviously a skilled pianist at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's a filthy stinking rich dude that's had a lot of recovery time from coke, which I'm glad he finally admitted it in this season. Like that,
literally my favorite line in the series, but we'll get there here in a bit.
But I like that they didn't just have him jump back in immediately. They
Agreed.
made it more real, where he wasn't, yeah, I'll be there, no, whatever you need. Especially since he's got previous interactions with one or two of these people. So I like that he was so against doing it at first, and Kreese had to come pick away at his armor a little bit, find his weakness, so to speak.
Well, and yeah, the whole weakness thing was so fantastic. Like it was almost like a metaphor throughout the entire season to some extent, is everybody has a weakness, and Cobra Kai is all about exploiting that weakness. But along with Terry Silver, who is a returning character that we love very much, we also get introduced to a new character and a new version of an old character almost immediately back to back. We get Kenny, who is a new kid in town, it seems. Based on his name, I assume he's going to die, but not in every episode, hopefully. But no, Kenny shows up, and he's kind of a nerdy, smaller kid. He's into video games, looks like a Minecraft style. It's not actually Minecraft, but they're very much like kind of implying that it's similar, I think. And he almost immediately, as we're introduced to him, gets caught in an embarrassing moment where he's dancing to his headphones and the whole school bus sees him and he doesn't realize it. And then he's pretty quickly bullied on the bus by a group of kids, one of whom is the Whopper Jr. eating version, as Johnny Lawrence points out, of Anthony LaRusso, which, oh my God, that kid had a glow up.
What the hell happened? I was like, why do we care about these other kids? Like, why are they pointing the camera at them like I'm supposed to know who they are? And then I literally had to get on IMDb and see if it was the same actor, because I was like, no, this is a different actor. But no, it said it was the same dude. So
I didn't have to look it up, but I had a similar situation where they kept holding on the camera on the guy. I'm like, why does it feel like I should care about this person? Why does it feel like I should know this person? Holy shit, is that the little chunky little brother? And like, that's exactly who it is. I mean, that's just the type of situation you have when we're dealing with a show which has done 4 seasons that have all directly connected to each other. But obviously it takes longer to film and produce and release a show than it does for real life to happen. So this kid has grown up significantly. He's much taller, hit a growth spurt, and he's thinned out a lot. And it looks like just, right off the bat, it seems like his story arc is that he's told all his friends that he knows his dad's karate, or at least they assume so. But as we know, that kid has done nothing but play video games and ignore his father's teachings for every episode we've ever seen him in prior to now.
God, aren't the LaRusso kids so annoying in this show? Like, and like my thing was, yeah, Anthony was being a bully. Like, I don't want to dance around that, but he was kind of like bully by association.
Except pressured by he was in a friend group that was going a path that he didn't necessarily align with. But at that age, it's really hard to stand up against your friends and be like, no, man, that's wrong. I don't want to do that. Especially since he was already, it seemed like, on the outside of his friend group. So it's like it's that middle school game where you're vying for popularity. And unfortunately, the easiest way to do that is to shit on the slightly weaker.
Yeah, or the new kid in town, which
that's what I mean, really.
Yeah, but like, I feel like he wasn't at the heart of all the bullying that was going on, even though he was involved with it. Not to paint his kind of bullying in a light tone, but like every time they're picking on Kenny, you could see the look on his eyes when he's kind of hanging back, like, no, I don't want to do this.
He was torn about it. He still did it, and it was still wrong, and he still definitely deserves his comeuppance. But it like, there was never a point in the episode where you thought he was truly evil. He was just being influenced by some kids that were pretty shitty.
Yeah,
and a lot like Johnny's friends back in the 80s, because they're the rich Encino kids, and they're picking on the not so wealthy, not so his brothers and juvie, and they've got issues in their family. Yep. I mean, they're not in a karate dojo war, so I guess they should maybe not look down on others so much. But
I mean, needless to say, though, Anthony's a little turd because of the way he talks to his dad, and about how he literally paid somebody to wax on, wax off, which you knew that was coming. You knew,
and everything. And I did like that they made Kenny ends up being the younger brother of the kid from the third season that was basically beating up Johnny's son. Oh my God, Robbie. in Juvie, essentially. So like, there's like a connection there, which opens up the door for that character to come back in season 5, maybe, or season 6. That could be cool. We see him get released from Juvie, and then Kenny has to kind of choose between Robbie's teachings and his brother's teachings, or any number of things that they could go with that character and that line. All of that is really good. One of my maybe favorite ways that they've ever introduced a new character into a series, late in the season, and it felt very seamless. Like I did not feel at any point Kenny was like being forced into the plot. I felt like he fit really naturally into this universe.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I thought, was this kid going to be related to Jaden Smith or something at first?
That's the Kung Fu kid, Richie. That's the Kung Fu,
why do you just show somebody and they always have a connection to a character from the past movies? So like every time there's a new character, I'm like, how is this person connected? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of the main kid's name now. Johnny's a student. Oh my gosh, this is going to kill me. Miguel. I keep thinking, is Miguel going to be the son of Terry Silver? But then Terry Silver gets introduced, and you're like, okay, clearly that's not going to happen.
Miguel's Ecuadorian, so I don't know if that would work.
That was rumored. Well, that was rumors like a year and a half ago.
They're already rumoring that he's going to be Mike Barnes' kids now. So like,
yeah. Well, honestly, at the end of the season, then I've seen nobody talk about it, but I haven't searched a whole lot of message boards after the season ended. When Terry Silver is laughing and says, "I got friends that can help run the place." Nobody talked about the fact that could be Mike.
Everybody's talking about the fact that could be Mike. I think you've just been out of touch, man. That's literally been like the number one topic.
Okay, literally when the week it came out, I watched it that weekend, and I went to like 5 different message boards talking about the finale, and none of them mentioned that at all. And I was like, "Come on, he's setting it up."
That's the low hanging fruit. I think it's funny that like I've seen almost nobody talk about Snake coming back with Mike Barnes, because if you remember, if you're trying to have a good time in the Valley, Snake's the guy to have a good time with.
There you go. We got.
Hey, that's their phrasing, not mine.
And the thing that's so great about this to me too is like regarded as possibly the worst canon Karate Kid movie. Well, I guess it's all canon.
The next.
Yeah. But there wasn't a lot of love for Karate Kid 3, but I feel like Cobra Kai as a show has made everybody feel the love for Karate Kid 3. I've seen people literally be like, I went back and watched it, and honestly, it's not bad. I enjoyed it.
It's very flawed, and it's not as good as the first two, but it's still very enjoyable. And that Terry Silver makes that show, that movie, very, very entertaining. And honestly, the whole kata thing, being at peace, being balanced, like that still feels very Miyagi, and I appreciated that.
I definitely think Terry Silver stole most of this season of the show.
I would agree with that.
I loved every scene he was in. Miles and I talked about this last night. I feel like for at least the first half season, maybe the first 6 episodes or so, you believe Terry and you understand his teaching, the way he's teaching these kids about weaknesses. Yeah, we've always done that. But when he talks about doing it the right way in class a lot too, and it's like,
and sometimes even overstepping Kreese, contradicting Kreese.
And I'm glad that it wasn't so cut and dry the whole way through, where it's like we're teaming up and we're doing it this way, because they're mocking Johnny and I almost said Ralph, Johnny and Tony. Wait, what's LaRusso's first name?
Daniel.
I can't even. Yeah, Daniel. I want to say Tony. Man, I just had a brain fart. Daniel and Johnny. I'm so used to hearing, "Hey, LaRusso." Like they had beef even while they were trying to help each other out. So I'm glad that Kreese and Silver did as well. That it wasn't just.
It's weird how this always has balance, very Miyagi. Which I was going to say that the creators of the show, you brought up Jaden Smith's version. They have pretty much said that version does not exist in their universe, because they call it the Miyagi universe. So anybody that has interacted with Mr. Miyagi is part of the Cobra Kai world, which leaves open the only movie that has yet to be referenced or brought in is the next Karate Kid, which is an awful, awful, awful movie, but still has some nice Miyagi moments in it. And it would be really neat to see Julie Pierce, mostly just because of the actress that plays her. That was like one of her first roles, but I'm blanking on her name now.
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank.
We got each other's backs.
Yeah, we got this covered. An Academy Award-winning actress, coming back to be a part of this world would be pretty stellar if she was willing to do it. And there's already been a lot of rumors of like how she could be Tori's mom or Tori's counselor or any number of things connected to Tori, which is a great returning character we have to talk about. Yeah. Other than Terry Silver, who we're going to come back around on and definitely talk about more, and Kenny, the new Cobra Kai kid who wasn't evil. He was really bullied into Cobra Kai more than anything, which is kind of a fun twist in the season too. There are times, like there is one point early on in the season, I literally said out loud, I'm like, oh my God, are they going to make the Miyagi-Dos the bullies of the season? Like, is it going to be like a role reversal? And they kind of tease that might happen for sure. With a lot of the returning characters now having a power dynamic shift after, everything that's happened over the last few months with Miyagi-Do essentially beating Cobra Kai in a small scales battle. It's kind of put the Miyagi-Dos on the top of the food chain, so to speak. And yeah, it definitely changes the power dynamics of the show, which there is a ton of returning characters, most of which I liked at least as much as I have before. Some of them even more. I think Tori this season became one of the stars of the show versus she in the past has been a background character. But you mentioned something earlier that we have to talk about because it's another just popular thing and a divisive thing on like the message boards and whatnot. You hate Samantha LaRusso. You find, or at least you find her very annoying.
I don't think hate is the right word because I don't like her character.
See, and I do. I don't mind her at all. I don't think she's the best, but I still enjoy her arcs and whatnot. But your opinion is very, very popular. A lot of people have the same thing you do. It's like, oh my God, the show is awesome, except why is Samantha LaRusso on my screen? Stuff like that. Or her story arcs bother people. What is it from your perspective that why do you not care for Samantha's storylines? Or what is of Samantha in general?
Pretty much for what Johnny Lawrence and Tori always complain about her is that like she's been hand fed everything and that like she has everything easy. She makes every situation worse. And like obviously they write her that way and it's like they let you feel for Tori.
No, it's Mary Mouser. She's personally making the show worse, is Richie's opinion.
It's like they make her make decisions that are too extreme at times. And it's like, I'm sorry, who shows up to somebody's job and bullies them in front of everybody and picks on them like that? But she got glitter bombed for it, which was the best part of that whole scene. But like, she just annoys the crap out of me. She whines constantly about stuff that is not important. She basically cheats on all her boyfriends and like says it or does something right in front of the guys. Even in this season, when they're at the dance and she gets on to Miguel for looking at Tori, well, then she's looking at Robbie, and they even have a little moment where like they're at the pool party part afterwards where like she's like, oh, I loved you too and blah 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 blah, and Miguel's looking at her like, what the hell? But like I get it, she's a teenager and she's doing teenager-y things, but she's just too over the top. And like I told you a week and a half ago, pissed me off in the All Valley tournament when she doesn't call timeout and she runs over to her dad for a timeout. Every other character had shown him go timeout. But she
doesn't call it. That's an interesting.
She runs over there like a child. Runs over there. There's no Miyagi.
She needs permission from her dad to use Eagle Fang,
and it's more important than following the rules of the tournament. But I don't know her wishes and all of that stuff, and like when Tori tries to be like not necessarily friendly, but like calling a truce when she goes back to school, and she like literally approaches her to talk to her calmly, and she's like, I'm mean, bitch, and I'm going to kick your ass if you do. And it's like, she's just unnecessary. Everything she does is unnecessary, in my opinion.
Okay, that's interesting. And I don't necessarily say that I disagree with the parts of what you're saying with like her, like her running to her dad at the end. Like, yeah, that's kind of weird, whatever. But specifically with the thing with Tori there, I do kind of like that dynamic just because in her, like, to me, it's like her mom is betraying her after like all this drama and whatnot.
She didn't know all of that yet.
that's kind of why I feel like it's justified that she's still so hostile, right? Like, because at this point she's seen Tori in her kitchen with her mom. She doesn't really know the dynamics of what's happening, but she knows that that her mom is treating her like a human being. How forbid, or God forbid. I know that there's a lot of what you said is accurate, but it's also true that she's a high school student. So like that does in my mind justify. I know that's what I said. You said that. That's what I'm saying is that though to me justifies all the complaints that you made about her in terms of relationship.
You're going the wrong route. The only reason I give Sam a little bit of justification is because Tori literally tried to like end her life with freaking spikes on her knuckles when she was punching her.
And actually, that leads to one of my favorite scenes with Samantha LaRusso. It's in the arcade, or I'm sorry, the closed down laser tag arena. And a lot of people complain about this scene because they're like, oh my God, she's the one that wanted to start the fight. And then she just sat there and watched Dimitri get his arm broken. She was having a panic attack, bro. Like, and I thought that she did a really good job conveying a panic attack on screen, because that's something that is often done really poorly on television and movies. Like, it's like just it doesn't actually accurately depict what would happen, because people don't get into a frenzy. They don't turn into a maniac. They literally shut down. Like they shut down and become like a shell of a human being that is unable to react to like an obvious stimulus that like anybody not going through a panic attack would be. Of course you should have handled that differently. But her portrayal of that on screen, I thought, was actually really good. And it kind of leads into some other situations where she shows signs of like PTSD from that incident. And I think that Mary Mouser does a great job portraying that as Samantha LaRusso. And that's what, to me, connects me to that character.
The reason people are upset about that is because she's the one that picked that fight.
Did she, though? I mean, the Cobra Kai's were picking on Homeboy at the arcade. The Chris, I think his name is.
She wanted to fight before they ever went out, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen that season, unlike some people that watch it every other day.
I watched all 3 Karate Kid movies and all 4 seasons of the show again this week. Because,
I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly, that Sam was going for a fight because she basically wanted revenge for what happened in the school fight. Like she was a little bit of an
wouldn't you?
But if my dad is teaching me this certain way, me as a person, it's about the lessons that you're supposed to be learning. And the lesson is not to go looking for a fight, which they kind of throw all that out the window in the new season.
I don't know, man. As a 17, like maybe now, like we're 36, so sure.
No, I would say I would do that the whole time. I'm saying that just me as
I was a very different 17-year-old than you, because I would have absolutely been looking for that fight. Yeah.
And was not Daniel LaRusso a 17-year-old at one point in our viewing time?
What do you mean?
Was he not in his teenage years on the first Karate Kid and second Karate Kid?
I mean, to be fair, he was actually in his 20s at that time. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, and I agree. Like, that's what makes the show. That's what makes a lot of these character decisions and reactions acceptable, is they're teenagers. I mean, I know that they are 20-somethings playing teenagers, but they're teenagers.
Kids. They are snot-nosed LaRusso kids. Like they've fallen far from honestly, they're a lot like LaRusso before he met Miyagi. And maybe that's the biggest.
That's the point, right? Like that's to me, that you just described why the show exists. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than Johnny's journey, which is also, the same concept.
Show.
I think it's the dichotomy of those two. I think it really does a good job of exploring the dynamics of their relationship as teenagers, Johnny and Daniel LaRusso, and then the men that they've grown into. And one of the characters, it's in season 3 when Allie comes back, and they have the big fancy dinner party, which is a callback to the first Karate Kid movie when Daniel had that white tux on and he got covered in pasta sauce and was all embarrassed and whatnot. But Allie and Amanda LaRusso, Daniel's wife, are talking that entire time. And then they have a moment or a conversation where essentially they talk about how Johnny and Daniel are a lot more alike than they'd like to admit to each other. And they always have been, is the thing.
Yep. Yeah, and even Carmen, Miguel's mom, kind of goes along that line in the new season. Now that
I love her, by the way. I think she's such a
too.
great part of the show that goes underappreciated. Like she grounds both Miguel and Johnny Lawrence's characters so much. And like when we say grounding in this universe, we have to use that like almost like very lightly, because this entire universe exists in a world where there are clearly like no such thing as mental health professionals, and also no guns. And all conflict is resolved with resolved. Thank you. Is resolved with karate. That is how it works in this world.
And that's, I mean, it's campy. Just say what it's campy, but it's campy done like to both mock and appreciate the camp. Like, and that's what they buy into it. And that's what sells the show. Like all these people buy into this, and you read stories, they all seem to have a ton of fun doing it too.
Mm-hmm. Which it seems like they're all legitimately friends too. When you and I were talking about like the actual karate backgrounds of a lot of these characters, which when you watch, I will say one thing that is a complaint for me. When you watch Daniel LaRusso in Cobra Kai doing karate, it is very obvious that is a man who does not know karate, who has been taught to move his body in a manner that suggests that he does. Versus Johnny Lawrence, like he actually looks like he does karate. And I looked it up, and that's because, in fact, Johnny Lawrence did continue, like during Karate Kid, the movie, they trained both Daniel LaRusso and all the Cobra Kai kids actually had karate lessons. And then after the movie, Johnny Lawrence, or William Zabka, I should say, actually continued his training and went all the way to green belt in karate, and continued to do a lot of acting. He got typecast as a villain who knew martial arts in the 80s is really what happened. But then he went on and had kids who also got into karate, and that got him back into karate. So William Zabka actually does do at least some level of karate, and it's very obvious when you watch them act as if they're fighting that one of them knows how to fight and the other one does not. And then the one that surprised me the most, and you, I think, had known this as well, but the person that was actually the most trained on set before filming ever started was Hawk. And he actually got a purple belt in karate before the filming ever even started. Like he just did karate as a hobby. And then the kid who plays Robbie did Taekwondo, but that, I would say that would help, obviously. I don't know if it would be the same.
I mean, excuse me. Any little tidbit that is going to help you when you're having to do these over-the-top actions to make it look like something very well, but to also make it look dynamic on screen. That's going to help. But yeah,
they do a good job making it look like most of the kids know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Even if some of them only learn it in like 6 weeks.
Or they're just learning the choreography of the fight, not actually how to fight. I mean, all that's fine. And honestly, I don't know to what extent they use doubles on the show. I assume that there's got to be some stunt doubles and whatnot that are in the show. Again, I don't know to what extent that is used. I imagine they try to get the actual actors to do as much as possible. And you can tell a lot because of the fight scenes. And man, some of those fight scenes at the finale of season 4 were some of the best fights in the show so far, in my opinion.
Dude, I love the men's final fight.
Oh, like, yeah. Hawk and Robbie. Yeah, that was great.
Called that one. I was like, freaking, as soon as Eli, because he's Eli now again. As soon as he got his confidence back, he said, "I'm going to win the whole.
I'm going to win the whole fucking thing."
I went, I bet he is. I said,
"Yeah." Honestly, I said the same thing. And to be fair, you also pointed out, like, if you just like know how like drama works, you knew that like once you got to the final, you knew that Hawk was going to win because the way that the tournament worked. Cobra, it would come down to the women's match that way, and like for the whole enchilada. And otherwise, if Robbie had won that fight, the last fight would not have had nearly the stakes. Yeah, it would have only been for Tori and not for Cobra Kai.
The only thing I didn't like about the last fight is when Robbie mid-fight is looking at Kenny at one point, because Kenny has that killer instinct all of a sudden, because Robbie had the match won right there if he would have just struck. And I felt like that, but that's the campiness of the show. That's the part that you have to, that's the drama over the
I was going to say, I have the exact opposite opinion, because I love that moment so much, because Robbie had a moment of humanity where he wasn't a snake. He was a person with feelings. And and he's
like it was
kind
drawn out too long. It should have been a lot quicker.
Excuse me. He's kind of taken Kenny under his belt as like a little brother type too. I mean, like, or almost a sensei role to some extent.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's crying about it with Johnny at the end of the season. Like, he wanted to give him what he didn't have, and he turned Kenny into what he hated about himself. Like, that's what finally brings him. Like, it's almost like he understands Johnny a little bit better because of what he just did wrong. Which
is like terrible timing, because now we know we're going to talk about Miguel's story, but Johnny is now on the road to Mexico. Yep. So he will once again not be there for his son when his son really needs him. And that's been a great emotional draw that they've used very well throughout the entire series. But even season 4, what's that?
What if Robbie goes with him?
Oh, that's interesting. I had not considered that.
I hadn't either till right now, but what's Robbie doing? Like, he doesn't want to be a part of Cobra Kai anymore.
No, I think he wants to save Kenny is the only thing I see for Robbie's future.
That'll keep him there. But wouldn't that be an interesting story if he went with Johnny to
save Miguel, and then Miguel sees Robbie and Johnny show up?
Yes.
And there's the two most heartbreaking moments. One of them we're going to talk about when we get to the end of the tournament, because I know we've talked about it already. The maybe the biggest heartbreaking moment in the entire series this season. Or in the entire show this season was a moment where Johnny had got his ass kicked by Terry Silver, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Was it still Silver and Kreese, or was it just Silver?
Kreese never hit him.
Okay,
he tried to get Kreese to do it, but he didn't.
That's right. They tried to do the old 2-on-1 like they tried to do on Miyagi back in the day, but we haven't really mentioned it much. But we actually see Kreese is Barnes, true. We actually see Kreese is actually starting to become sympathetic, which is kind of crazy to say.
Weird. Yeah, it was so weird to feel that way. You knew in that scene that Johnny was his weakness. You're like, yep.
And I do love the way that they've been doing like the flashback sequences all the way. Yeah. It started in season 3. It started before that even, but in season 3 they really went deep into like Kreese's military background. And now they're using all of that. Like, he was a psychologically tortured individual himself. So there's a lot of backstory with these characters. Everybody's a psychopath. I love it. But that heartbreaking moment we got to talk about is Johnny gets his ass kicked. He's drunk. He's in bed, or he's like passed out at home. Miguel comes and finds him and like puts him into bed. And they're having this like literally tears in their eyes, crying, telling each other how much like they care about each other. And Miguel says, "I love you." And then Johnny responds, "I love you too, Robbie." And you can literally see Miguel's like, man, that kid, another just solid actor on the show.
His heart actually breaks.
Yeah, exactly. If you slow down the tape, you can see the moment it actually breaks.
Bring up the Simpsons.
Damn it, we always fail on that. Yeah.
Anybody that's been seriously drunk before knows that, he meant he loves both of them. He loves Miguel.
Johnny does love both of them, but he's dealing with two kids who need 100% of him. And he's neglected He's neglected Robbie for a long time, it seems.
Yep.
Through his own fault or possibly the mother who is in rehab and all that good stuff, which is another interesting storyline. But Miguel is also a kid that really, really needs a father figure, which leads to what his arc is going to be coming soon. Because all we've ever known about Miguel is that his father was a guy who was into some bad things, or he's kind of a bad guy, from Mexico or Ecuador. And he definitely, or as far as we knew, he just abandoned Miguel. We find out at the end of this season, Miguel's dad didn't know Miguel exists. So that's going to be real awkward when Miguel's down there being like, "Hey, Dad."
Walks into the headquarters of a drug cartel and I'm your son.
And your point about Robbie going is really interesting. I don't think they're going to go that way because of the Kenny thing.
Much fun.
But that really does, like, that would pull on those emotional draws so much too, because that
fact that
split dynamic.
Robbie broke his back in season 2, like all the emotion behind that. But like, you might need 3 karate guys to take out the cartel. I don't know. I'm just assuming it's cartel.
It does seem like I also assume it's going to be a cartel at some point, and it does definitely seem like the next sequence that we're going to have for Miguel and Johnny is going to be fighting henchmen in a cartel, which I'm stoked for. That's going to be great.
I am too, and I'm glad that they brought that in during the tournament, because all everyone's talking about, we've got the All Valley champ already. Like it's Miguel. Miguel's just going to get to the finals and everything's going to be fine. And they oversold it so much that you're like, he can't be the guy that does it now. It's, again, like you said, it's a drama. They got to change it up. They can't have the same guy win. And just let him take himself out of the tournament instead of, when his back broke, you thought something happened to his back at the end of the 9th episode. You're just like, oh fuck,
dude. When he screams out "Sensei," like it's like that's another moment where you're just like, but yeah. A lot of these teenage or young 20-year-old actors playing teenager really are solid. And it's one of those things that I'm excited to see what other projects they're eventually going to be popping up in. Because
just got cast. He's let me pull it. He's doing something I've seen. It's some kind of DC character, like his
name's Zolo something. Yeah. I want to say.
I thought he just got cast as like Nightwing or Robin or something.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously he's got the martial arts side of things, and the kid can act, so I'd be down for that. But that's the thing about this show, and I think that's also the reason that this show has so much fodder for being made fun of, because it is like so emotional at times, and it's like a mix of emotional and campy, which is a dangerous combination, frankly. But I personally think they just pull it off so well.
Yeah, it's a fine line that you have to walk when you do that. But again, the writers, the producers, everyone with the show seems to have a reverence for the original material, which I think is also the way you got to go about it. Peter Jackson did such a good job with Lord of the Rings because he had a reverence for the original material and understood J.R.R. Tolkien's vision. And I think it's similar with everybody in this show, just to put it, in retrospect.
Put it out there. Did you find out what Zolo's in?
I need you to stall for me if you...
You're good. I have more to say. Surprise.
Oh, Blue Beetle. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
I'm pretty sure that's DC.
That is DC. I only know Blue Beetle from the Injustice games. He's actually a really cool character to fight as.
But yeah, I think he's going to be Blue Beetle.
Interesting.
You heard it here first.
I just wish that the DC movies weren't such trash. Hopefully they fix that soon.
Maybe they need to hire the writers and producers that can be both campy and fun and dramatic with it.
Oh, now that is an idea for sure. So towing that line brings me to another moment in the show. And I will say there's a term that I read somebody's review or deep dive into the series, and they used a term that I really, really liked. And the term was breaking the third wall, which we're all familiar with breaking the fourth wall. That's a pretty common thing, a trope at this point. If you're not familiar with breaking the fourth wall, just watch the movie Deadpool, and that will explain it better than I am able to. But breaking the third wall was a concept that they applied directly to the Karate Kid Cobra Kai series. Specifically, it's that characters in Cobra Kai seem to be aware of how campy some of their past is. There's like how ridiculous, like the idea, like Amanda LaRusso is a character that it's constantly breaking the third wall by pointing out how ridiculous this, like, you guys are in like a warring karate dojo. Like, are you guys like paying attention to yourselves? I'm sorry. You went to Japan for a week, and in that time you like had a meeting with the person that you had a death match with, the girl that you like had a tea ceremony with, and a little girl that you saved from a hurricane or tsunami that just so happened to be the president of sales for the company that you need to impress right now.
Good moments.
And it was so perfect, but they call out how ridiculous that is. And Terry Silver, I think, had the best example of this breaking the third wall idea. I've already told you this, I know, but it's early on when Kreese is trying to convince him to come back to Cobra Kai. He's like, are you kidding me, man? Like, we were wild back then. I did so much cocaine that I psychologically tortured a kid. Like he's so self-aware of how ridiculous the plot of Karate Kid 3 is, but they also both justify it and they don't dismiss it. They admit that it really happened, but they acknowledge that it is insane.
I was trying to look up aren't the Ralph Macchio and is it Thomas Ian Griffith or whatever the guy that plays
Thomas Ian Griffith, yeah.
Aren't they both like the same age almost too?
Thomas Ian Griffith, Terry Silver is 4 months older than Daniel LaRusso.
He's younger.
Yeah, he's younger. Daniel LaRusso is the older than Terry Silver.
Oh, yeah. That is so great. I will never watch The Karate Kid 3 the same again. Ralph Macchio, whatever he's paying, whatever he's doing, it's working wonders for him, man. That is so crazy.
Something I learned this week about Karate Kid 3 that I thought was interesting. So when Daniel LaRusso came back for the Karate Kid 3, he's still supposed to be an under 18, kid because he's in that All Valley tournament, and he was 28 years old at the time. And the reason that the character that owns the pottery shop or whatever across the street from Miyagi's Little Trees, the reason that they don't have a romantic connection is twofold. And it's both because Ralph Macchio had just become married and he basically was uncomfortable, with that sequence going on when he had just got married to his wife. And two, he was 28 years old and that actress was 16 years old. And he is just like, nope, that's icky. I don't want to do it. Because even though the character was 17 or whatever, still, I can completely understand why they're like, no, we're just going to make these two friends.
So that makes so much sense because even in the movie, you feel like they're supposed to have a romantic connection and you always wonder why, we're just really good friends. And
in the early draft, they were supposed to have a romantic connection. And that's why they added the line where she's like, hey, I'm really sorry I led you on earlier, but I actually have a boyfriend. You still want to hang out? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's just some character that you really don't even care about in that movie anyways. Even Ralph Macchio has talked about The Karate Kid 3 and how things were a little
He's not a fan. Yeah, he's not a fan. I think literally if it weren't for Thomas Ian Griffith being Terry Silver in that movie would have absolutely been forgotten.
Yeah, but I mean, God, it looked like he had so much fun coming back to that character in this. You get to see the turn of Silver and can we go ahead and talk about the freaking end of this?
I think that we should. The other things that I have on my ideas of what I want to talk about is getting into the tournament itself, and then I want to go more into the.
I guess we could start with the end of the tournament with the women's finals before we go into the.
Okay.
Finale. Just natural progression of the story, I guess.
Yeah. The whole tournament, we should. we have to talk about the tournament, like the directors and the changes they made to the tournament this year. Because I've got some pretty big complaints about that actually. So during the meeting of that tournament, they're basically discussing how they want to take the All Valley tournament into the future. And their solution, solution for this is to divide up the tournament into both a men's and women's division, which I'm thinking, if anything, it seems like society is going the other way. To be progressive, it would be what's that?
I thought somebody in the show said something about it. So, but we're going to segregate things. I thought somebody in the show actually said that. Maybe I just said it in my head and did it, but you've watched it 80 times since it came out. So I figured you would know off the top of your head. But okay.
I don't think anybody ever actually called it out is the thing. But it was very ridiculous in my mind that their way of moving forward into the future is to divide the tournament out because they didn't think it was a good look having men hit women in the tournament. And so they'd have a women's and a men's, or since it's under 17, I think they actually call it the boys and the girls division. And then they also added the skills contest. And all of this overlaying on this bet that they made in the end of season 3, where basically if Cobra Kai wins, both Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso are not allowed to teach karate in the Valley anymore. If either of Daniel LaRusso, if either Eagle Fang or Miyagi-Do wins, then Cobra Kai is done, is the bet. So I
wouldn't expect Cobra Kai to hold up that bargain for what it's worth.
And it's ironically Daniel who seems like he's going to be going back on the deal at the end.
Is it though?
Because it depends on who teaches. Yeah, exactly. It might be chosen 100%. But I think Daniel will be involved more than he's not just going to be able to go back to the car lot after all this karate and he's been doing.
It's part of his life. You can still give advice, life advice.
Balance. Yes. Yeah, 100%. But So that really changes up things and led to some pretty funny moments in the skills competition portion of the show. One of my favorites is when the dude's doing the bow staff and he accidentally flings it at the judges, and then he just turns, bows, and like runs awkwardly off stage. That was another one of like the behind the scenes moment they showed, and it just had the entire cast just cracking up when he would do that, and like to the point that they were having a hard time with him keeping a straight face, because I mean he literally had to just throw this bow staff at 4 people, and they had to like sit there and not flinch. Which is impressive on its own right. So we get the skills competition. We have Eagle Fang, which is now separated from Miyagi-Do, which has made them even weaker because neither dojo has a strong man and a strong woman. One has a strong female fighter. The other has a strong male fighter. So it makes them even weaker, separated against Cobra Kai. And it leads to all this fun stuff where we get the great fight we talked about between Robbie and Hawk. I usually would be really annoyed by the fact that both dudes just randomly took their tops off for the last fight, but they justified it in a really clever way. And it's because the last point that Hawk got, or the second to last point that Hawk got, he actually got his arm into Robbie's gi and did a gi throw, which is a legal maneuver if you're wondering. But that also Robbie recognized that his gi was actually acting as a weakness. Plus, I will always be a fan that every time they show Hawk's tattoo, they sound edit a caw.
Yeah.
Gets me every time. But they have an epic showdown, and that leads to our final match.
Such a good fight.
Probably the best fight on Cobra Kai to date, frankly.
How long it was, and it was just one versus one, and nobody else got involved with it, kind of thing.
Incredible that it's the first time that it's gone to sudden death since 1985, too, honestly. Like that just never happens unless we, the audience, are watching.
Wasn't that announcer great too, man?
Oh, dude, the announcer. That was another complaint though. What the hell is Karate Underwood doing at this thing? Like, what was the point of that?
He's a fan of the show.
She is a fan of the show.
She was a fan of the show. Yeah. She
is that okay? If there's a
this is a real thing. I read the article on it.
Okay, lay it down.
She was a fan of the show. I think she started watching it probably in season 2, if I remember correctly. But she had been binge watched a lot of it, and she tweeted at Cobra Kai, and she misspelled Cobra Kai the way that I used to, where she used the K at the beginning.
The K. Yeah, you don't ever want to use Cobra Kai karate. That's not a great idea.
When somebody responded, they said "carry" with the K, I think. So they started talking. They knew that she liked the show, so they just started talking, and then got her to redo a song on there.
Okay, that actually makes me slightly happier with that situation because it feels so arbitrary and random and out of the blue. She does sing the end credit song for the Karate Kid Part 1, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it just like the whole when she comes out, every time I've watched this season now, which I think I've watched it 3 times, I'm just like, why is she here? Like, what the hell is this about?
What are you doing?
And also, this has been a common trope at this point, but like, what is like happening in like Encino and Reseda that youth karate is like the Super Bowl to them, because like everybody in the stands is freaking out constantly about these fights.
Hold up, dude. Maybe in season 1, maybe season 2 with this kind of stuff, I would understand that mentality. But now, everyone's outside talking about how all these kids like fought to the death in a school and someone's back was broken and some chick was
okay.
Like
I'll give you season 4's reaction, but they've been there since the beginning, dude.
I think it was more raucous in this last season. Did you hear LaRusso's house was broken into by the kids that broke his son, this one kid's back, and blah, blah, like, oh my gosh, you would be knowing all about this stuff. News travels fast, man.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And I mean, we do live in the world
out of each other, even though they're 17.
We get like all the stuff with like Kenny getting like the milk in his locker and stuff, and it's all on the internet. So that's another thing, is it's buzzing. And I do actually really like the sequence when they're like recruiting, especially when Johnny's trying to recruit girls on Eagle Claw. There's a lot of very funny moments on that. But there's characters that even say things like, "Oh yeah, I definitely need to join a dojo. I don't want to be the last person here that doesn't know karate." Stuff again. Another example of breaking the third wall for what it's worth.
But the first girl that he tried to talk to, and he's like, Was the one where he walked up to her on the soccer field or the track field? Oh, you would never say that to a child.
I love the sequence when Johnny has to learn how to be awake, as he calls it, when he's learning to be woke. And then he has all this great stuff that he says to this girl about like how he's like, we're not going to enforce gender identities and we want you to come and be, the masculine or feminine form that you want to be and just kick ass along the way and blah, 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 blah. And it seems like she's invested, and Miguel's even like, oh my God, Sensei, did you mean any of that? And he's like, I don't pee sitting down.
Same old Johnny.
Oh man, Johnny William Zabka, great comedic actor, does not get enough credit there either. But final fight, Richie. That's what we're here to talk about. It's Samantha LaRusso.
Didn't Johnny make a comment this season about?
We're not there yet. Just kidding.
Yeah, like kind of like how Barney Stinson said the Karate Kid was about Johnny Lawrence. Didn't he make a similar joke and about how he watched a movie because that the one person that you rooted for wasn't the person you should have been rooting for? Oh my God, that's going to escape me now. That's going to bug me all day.
I feel like he's been kind of low-key doing that since the beginning of the show, not just this season. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like they haven't directly referenced that, but they kind of like touch on a little bit. And I feel somebody had pointed out on a Reddit board that I thought was a great idea. They really should have had Barney Stinson or Neil Patrick Harris do a cameo when they were having like the board meeting and like all the townspeople are like speaking in. If he had been there to like speak on behalf of Cobra Kai, that would have just been fascinating. And even though even though he's not part of the Miyagi universe, a lot of people had pointed out, or a really like well-liked post I saw, I was like, oh yeah, that would have been great. If you remember in like season 2 or 3, when Daniel is like looking for guidance and balance, he comes across the fisherman on the beach and he thinks that it's Miyagi for a second. That would have been such a great cameo if they had put Mr. Han in there. From what? Oh my God, Jackie Chan. If they had put Jackie Chan as Mr. Han in there, that would have been such like a great little like touch to the like, it's Miyagi, but it isn't. But anyway, now
I mean,
can we talk about the final fight? We good?
Jackie Chan, I thought was Chinese and not Japanese, but that's okay.
Well, it was kung fu instead of
right.
Yeah, that was the whole
I'm still
thing.
alive. I just kung fu'd my desk.
That's fair.
All right.
It's the final fight
now.
Samantha LaRusso, who Richie personally hates, and Tori, whose name not Nix, Tori something.
Tori something, ladies and gentlemen.
She has become a character that at the very beginning when she was first introduced,
Tori
she is pretty Nichols. That's close. Tori Nichols' character that when she's first introduced, she's pretty much instantly a villain. She's stealing both liquor and something, the silverware from the country club. She's pushing Samantha LaRusso into a dessert table, which I guess makes her a hero in Richie's eyes. She's, using knives, nunchucks, and blades in her fights. But as we get more into season 4, she becomes a lot more sympathetic, like her sensei we're going to talk about in a minute, but she becomes a lot more sympathetic because of her conditions, the life conditions that she has. As they've said about her, she's not just been fighting since she joined Cobra Kai. She's been fighting her entire life.
Well, that's what happens with all the characters on the show is once you actually start learning where they came from and what their backstory is, that's the whole purpose of doing that, is to build sympathy for these characters. So if you don't show any of Tori's backstory or anything like that, then yeah, she's just a terrible child that's kicking people's asses and trying to kill them. And
I'd say she has it even rougher than most of the other cast, though. Like she might be the most hard-lived person on the show.
I would not say that about
Kreese.
Kreese and Silver literally had death staring them in the face.
How about of the children in the show, of the new bloods?
Absolutely. Most people are just bullied. She literally is like providing for her family while getting people to get her fired from her jobs because she's literally trying to help her mom survive, basically. And
she's got her like money aunt who's coming after her mom's like possessions and money even before her mom's gone. She's got her younger, she's the oldest, so she's taking care of her siblings. And they even have stuff like that really like gross maintenance dude who's basically like, hey, if you just suck my dick, I won't charge you rent. I mean, I don't think he actually said that, but it was close.
He implied it. And all of that on top of the fact that then she's getting mentorship from people that aren't the best to get mentorship from, that are playing into that aggressive behavior.
Early, and that was another great dynamic with Kreese versus Johnny Lawrence's Cobra Kai, because Johnny Lawrence's Cobra Kai actually has potential. Like, it actually does. Mm-hmm. It's still problematic because of its past, but the vision that he has for it is a much more positive and nurturing, in a different way than LaRusso, but still nurturing mindset. And it's really when Johnny goes away to be with oh my God, the kid that died, the one that got put in a body bag after all these many years. Yeah. It's when he went away to deal with all that Kreese was able to step in and take over and really get his hooks in Tori, so to speak. And he might be the absolute worst mentor for her ever.
Yeah, but is he? Because he starts seeing the ways he neglected Johnny, who is his weakness, at the end of the tournament. And they kind of give him a little bit of a redemption moment. It's not really a redemption moment, but for the sake of the show and the storytelling, it was a redemption moment.
It definitely is the most sympathetic he's ever been, because prior to now, he's only been a terrible character, somebody that we really don't have any sympathy for. I guess in season 3, you start to see like, oh man, he had it pretty rough when he was in the military, and he probably does have a lot of trauma that he should be dealing with
a therapist
outside of the karate studio or dojo or whatever. But yeah, Kreese does start to turn a little bit, but at the time that he's training Tori, he's still very much the bad Kreese guy. I mean, he like, it's weird that it almost takes a more insane person in Terry Silver to come in that makes Kreese start to soften up a little bit.
Well, that he's a master manipulator, and even Silver says that he paints you into a corner so that you have no choice but to stay with him, learning what he wants you to learn so that he can have personal glory, basically, and say he has the best. But it's the weird dynamic in this season was that at the beginning in the dojo with Silver and Kreese, you felt like Silver was doing it the right way, even though it was still wrong. He was doing it the right and legal way. And Kreese is the one, like, we're going to break the rules, and how are we going to get back to these guys? And I don't care if we're not supposed to fight. Let's go fight. And then by the end, they had switched. Where Kreese is like, no, let her fight the way that she wants to fight. We don't need to resort to taking out Sam.
During the final fight, Tori and Sam are basically locked up. They're very evenly matched because Tori had prepared for Sam's Miyagi-Do, and Sam is bringing a combination of Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang.
Johnny nodded his head at her.
And Robbie had taught all of Cobra Kai the Miyagi-Do style. We neglected to mention that as well, which made their tournament outcome a lot more difficult, we'll say. But at some point, Tori, seemingly by legit accident, gets an illegal hit on Samantha in the eye. And that's where you really see that turning point where Terry is full-blown heel, because he comes back and he's like, yeah, do it again. And there's also a really beautiful moment that you don't realize the first time going through, because he's telling her to be unreasonably aggressive. And he's like, don't worry, the ref isn't going to end this one on a technicality, which when you first watch it, you're like, huh, that's a little weird that he's so confident that the ref won't end it on a technicality. And of course, the other heartbreaking moment that we're about to find out is that at the end of all this, when Tori does become victorious after a questionable call about being out of bounds, but then the proper encouragement by Kreese, it seems like Tori has her moment and finally earns that trophy on her own, only then to immediately discover that Terry Silver had actually paid off the referee for the fight. And that outcome was not legit. I also like during the fight sequence, right after Eli wins, there's actually a moment where you see Terry kind of like disappear for a moment, and they just do like a weird freeze phrase on him, and then he walks off screen. And then we of course now know that he was going to bribe the referee.
Okay, I'm glad that I didn't remember that part. So I was going to ask, like, if he had it rigged the whole time, why did Eli win?
I had the same thought. Why would they let Eli win if he had already paid off the ref? But it's after the male fight that they go and do that moment. Yeah,
and that it's going to be interesting to see how Tori handles that going forward, because she's the only one that knows right now. I saw one fan theory that said maybe there was something else that they were talking about within the tournament that you'll come to find out. But I'm like, no, this is Cobra Kai. It's that.
It's her,
because it creates so many good storytelling moments. Like, is she going to be more angry and taking it out on everybody else and pushing people away, or is it going to cause her to switch sides and then have to train with all these people that she's been torturing for the last
I wonder
seasons?
if she'll be the one that starts visiting Kreese in prison, where we assume he's going to be going. And I also am excited to see what type of adventures Kreese gets in prison, just in terms of like fighting on the block and whatnot.
I will tell you, I read an article with Jacob, the guy that plays Hawk, Jacob Bertrand, talking about the fun that they have and all the story arc of Hawk over the last few seasons. He loves playing Hawk, and especially when he's bad, he liked that a lot. But he said that this upcoming season, because they've already basically finished production on season 5, he said that Kreese it's the best Kreese storyline. Like it's super exciting where Kreese's character goes this season. So
honestly, that makes me really happy because I'm very we can go ahead and say that this storyline ends with Terry Silver getting rid of his weakness, which ends up being John Kreese. And they do such a good job of setting that moment up too, because of all the times in the past where Kreese is called on Terry Silver, and we now know why. He basically saved his life in Vietnam, but he's felt indebted to him, and by getting rid of him, he gets that burden off of him. And so he actually set up Kreese by kicking the shit out of Stingray, who was trying to come back, and basically telling Stingray he would only be a member of Cobra Kai if he blamed Kreese for this fall.
Yeah, which that was cool, because at first I was like, is that story part ever going to play out? Is that how they're going to get rid of Silver at the end of the season? Because you find out that happened, but then when Kreese got arrested and they showed the flashback, you're like, oh, Silver's been setting this up. And I was
immediately excited just because that means that Silver's coming back for another season. I mean, like he's now the bad guy.
Blown Terry Silver, which is going to be beautiful to watch, torturing all these under 17-year-olds that are somehow older than him in real life.
And I hope he gets his coke addiction back, because he was even crazier then. But no, it's cool to see how much they make you care about all these. I mean, like, I've always just hated John Kreese, but like now there's like a part of me that's like, oh man, like just at the moment where you think that he's, maybe looking towards the light, he gets put away, framed for assault and battery
after he does the one good thing he's ever done.
Yeah,
but
that's your lesson, folks. Don't ever do good things. It only ends in prison time.
But that's what alludes to what you were saying, where maybe Tori goes and visits him because she knows that she saw Silver doing it, and then he's going to tell her how to go about going forward with the information, maybe. Because
I would love to see her as almost like a spy in Cobra Kai, who's actually getting her senseiing from Kreese, but staying in Cobra Kai. The popular theory is that she's going to team up with Samantha LaRusso because of the connection with Amanda. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense for the ground that they've laid. But I feel like they could do our idea for a season and then have Tori flip to the good side, and that would be a more interesting dynamic.
Screw it, have her go with Johnny and Robbie down in Mexico.
You just want the whole Cobra Kai cast in Mexico. It's like that weird season of Saved by the Bell that was in Hawaii. You just want that whole experience.
Down Mexico way.
So that basically, I think we covered all the major characters. I guess LaRusso and Kenny have a confrontation at the end where LaRusso, or Lapusso, great insult name, Anthony LaRusso specifically, is trying to apologize for Kenny, and Kenny had just lost Robbie, and he does not take it well. And in fact, he starts beating the shit out of Anthony LaRusso, which is the way that Robbie finds out, of all people, Anthony LaRusso was his bully this whole time. He had not known that up until now, which really sets up their storyline going forward. We just talked about Kreese is going to prison. Terry says he's got some old friends that could come back and help run Cobra Kai. Logically, that has to be either Mike Barnes or Mike Barnes and Snake, which is my vote. I really hope Snake gets some love because nobody's talking about him, and I feel like those two together would be great to see back on the screen.
You need numbers. You can't just have Silver fight everybody, so you got to give him some backup.
You've got, and I think Snake was Silver's son, wasn't he?
Was he?
I thought he was Snake Silver. I thought that was his whole thing. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe he was just being trained by him. Who else do we got? We got Daniel. We talked about briefly. He is now technically forbidden from teaching in the Valley, but it seems like he's questioning that. Like, he even has the line, like, why should I honor an agreement with men who have none, essentially?
Well, technically, it makes sense if Tori joins Miyagi-Do, she's gonna have to tell him that wasn't a true result from the tournament, and that would open the door for Daniel being able to keep teaching.
And that actually is another thing I saw that was a cool idea is I think by the time they get to the next All Valley tournament, all of these kids will no longer be under 18. So that's going to have to change. But what if I thought so, I could be wrong, but let's for this example, let's say they are. But what if, because Tori brings out the fact that tournament was rigged, they do a rematch before they turn 18
on the eve of their 18th birthday, because they share the birthday for some reason.
They have the same birthday. Yeah. They're actually twins, is what we're going to find out. They're both actually birthed by Julie from the next Karate Kid. That's how it's going to happen. And then last, I think we briefly talked about Miguel.
I've never asked you about it, but you know,
Miguel and Johnny are down to Mexico City to find the father that doesn't know Miguel exists. I think that covers all the major characters. Yes.
Hawk's got his mojo back.
Hawk's got his mojo and his girl back. Do you think he's going to get the Grim Reaper removed so it's the moon tattoo again?
Maybe. I don't know. We got to see Sam's best friend for that quick little cameo.
Aisha. Yeah. I was hoping that she was going to be one of the she was going to be in another dojo at the tournament. I thought that would have been cool.
Just have nobody win.
Are there any other theories or any other predictions or just any other things that we've talked about a lot going forward in the show already, but are there any other things that you want to talk about moving into season 5 or even season 6 of Cobra Kai?
Yes. First of all, I absolutely love the boardroom meeting between all the karate competition heads. Like the drama of them all arguing for that few minutes was hilarious to me. I think they make another surprise, shocking twist of the tournament in the future, and they get rid of the skills competition.
Bro, this is a one and done. Nobody likes it.
I mean, they'd spent almost no time on it. Like the film footage for that was all like montagey, and we don't really care about that, do we? Like, you don't want to see that.
I thought that their scenes were funny, and I really liked right before Karate Underwood performed, they were like sitting up top talking about how like, oh, the president of this guy is out. He's never done anything for this. We are so over him. And then he shows up with Carrie Underwood, and then like 2 seconds later, they're like, you do such a great job. We've never doubted you once.
All of their dynamics were hilarious in the season. I loved it.
Yeah. I just checked all of my notes that I took. We somehow managed in a very ununiformed way to get through all of them. But moving forward, man, I just say that I love this. Champ? Who is the next All Valley champ?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's going to be so dependent on the question we just raised about, like, are these kids going to age out or not? Like,
that's what it's all about. Who's the?
I think these kids age out. We get a different tournament, and maybe we get either Kenny or Anthony LaRusso as the All Valley champ. I don't want them to do Anthony LaRusso. That would be lame as fuck, honestly. But I can see Kenny being the All Valley champ.
No. There's going to be an over 18 Valley champ, and it's going to bring in a final confrontation between Daniel and Johnny
because they technically qualify.
Yeah. That's what the show is all about, man.
Some of the best moments still are when those two are on screen together. I absolutely love those moments and all the callbacks, references.
I think some of the best parts of this season were when they were learning each other's ways. And
sure.
Like the hockey fight was
fantastic. One of the best moments in the show still to date, period, is in the end of season 1 when they go to dinner together on accident. Yeah. Like Johnny is on his first date with Miguel's mom. Carmen, thank you. And then Daniel's trying to make up to Amanda, and they end up being sat next together. That's one of the like best like character moments in the show, period. Just the way that those two bond over dinner after being so at each other's throats the whole time. It's and then immediately it's ripped away in like the next scene they're together, because that's when Robbie brings Samantha drunk to Johnny's house, and then Daniel shows up like, what the hell are you harboring my drunk daughter for? Which is a fair concern. Only thing I want to say moving forward that we haven't talked about is I just love this show so much, and I trust the people making it. Like I'm really, you pointed out, they genuinely seem to be in love with the original franchise. They genuinely seem to care about these characters. They're doing such a good job of blending franchise classic characters from the old movies in with these new students. Even with your complaints about Samantha, I still think that she contributes to the show, but moving up to people like Kenny, who is not introduced at all until season 4. And I already care about that kid. Like I'm emotionally invested in how he turns out.
For what it's worth, Hawk did not, it was only a by accident meeting at the movie theater. That was not them following around Kenny and Cobra Kai. That was an accidental meeting. I read the article. So when Hawk bumps into Kenny at the drive-in after he's got all the snacks, that was an accident. That was not him.
Yeah, it didn't look like he was trying to bully him.
I saw people saying that, but like I don't think Hawk was ever bullying Kenny. He warned him about Cobra Kai in the bathroom when they were touring the high school, and like he didn't. It's not like he was trying to fight a little kid the whole time.
Hawk might be my favorite character on the show, honestly, and collectively throughout the show. Because he's gone from being the bottom of the nerds to
being bullied,
the biggest bully on the show, and now he's trying to redeem himself and find that Miyagi balance. I think he's a very interesting person to pair up with Chosen. Honestly, I think that might be a really cool dynamic when we see all that moving forward. But I was just gonna say, I
that move on Johnny when they did their one-on-one fight.
The stunning, he put him to sleep.
I'm like, what the hell?
And Johnny Hell's like, what the hell are you doing, LaRusso? But long story short, I just trust these creators so much because they've so far done such a good job of delivering is this all fan service? We were talking about this last night. Is Cobra Kai nothing but fan service? Like, I don't know, maybe it is, but if it is, I'm a fan and I love being serviced. So I'm good with it.
I feel like it's each stopping point on the show is fan service, and then all the new characters are the filler in between each spot.
Not filler in a bad way, but like the like filling of the cake that you really enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. But you gotta have stuff for new people to get into and for old people to like the newer stuff, but we want to see those fan service moments are the oh shit moments. And then how many times have the old movies been watched since Cobra Kai started? I bet the numbers have skyrocketed.
Oh Jesus, I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Yeah, like I bet people that have never seen the movies before or completely forgot about it have been watching it with their kids, or younger people have been like, I want to see what these old movies are about, and then they're just seeing what the source material actually is, even though you basically see all the old movies in the show because they do every scene in a flashback, which is lovely. I love seeing Pat Morita like pop up on my screen still. Like it's it brings a tear to my eye.
Same, and it's anytime you see an interview where they're talking about Pat, you can tell that like even though he's been dead and gone since 2005, his spirit, I guess, still lives on in so many of them, and they always talk about like what he would have liked about the show. He was a stand-up comedian before he was Mr. Miyagi.
Funny. Yeah. Like if you watch some of his old interviews and stuff, he is so freaking hilarious.
Absolutely, and he's definitely. I think that the show. It would have been really cool if we could have seen him on the show, but I think they're doing a really good job of recreating moments with him. And even like again, I know you're not the biggest fan, but I even like the way that they have him connected to like Samantha as like the stories like as her grandfather and stuff of that nature. So
yeah.
All right, so that's now over 2 hours that we've spent talking about Cobra Kai on Best Darn Everything, just counting last episode too. Richie, we gonna do this again when season 5 drops?
I mean, I was okay not doing it this time just because I was like, I know how you usually feel about redoing old topics in certain situations, but I know you're going to want to do this again, and obviously we can talk about it enough. We could talk about it as long as the series was.
You heard it here first. Richie made the executive decision. We are going against my will. We're going to do season 5 of Cobra Kai when it drops. But we got more Best Darn Everything topics coming up your way, and more Simpsons stuff eventually, we promise. In the meantime,
at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow me at @thewiz_kid23. Most importantly, you can follow our show in the meantime, as Miles just said, at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
And we are going to get back to The Simpsons. In fact, our next episode we're going to be reviewing is going to be probably this Sunday as when we'll record it. That won't come out to you until like 2 weeks from now. So, basically February. But we're going to be kicking off with Skinner's Sense of Snow. Hopefully not while dealing with another snow-apocalypse here in where we live.
Best no be there.
Accurate. And until next time, be cromulent to each other.